The battle over birthright citizenship is heating up in America. President Donald Trump wants it gone, but Democrats are standing in firm opposition. What's behind this controversial amendment bill, and what could it mean for the future of immigration in the U.S.? Birthright citizenship, also known as jus soli, means that any child born on U.S. soil automatically becomes an American citizen, regardless of their parents' immigration status. This principle comes from the 14th Amendment, passed after the Civil War. Donald Trump has long opposed birthright citizenship. During his presidency and again on the campaign trail for 2024, he vowed to end it through an executive order or constitutional amendment. His argument? That birthright citizenship encourages illegal immigration and so-called anchor babies, children born to non-citizens who gain automatic rights. We're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen. It's ridiculous. What do you think? Should the U.S. end birthright citizenship? Or is it a cornerstone of American identity? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on U.S. politics and policy.
This morning, the U.S. Supreme Court says it will hear the case on birthright citizenship this May. This is about President Trump's efforts to overturn what has been a right or seen as a right for well over 100 years. This is the 14th Amendment. How it has been interpreted in the courts and elsewhere has been that if you are born in the United States, you are an American citizen, regardless of whether your parents are here legally or not. Again, this goes to the court in May. The president says he's excited. He sees this as a chance to get rid of it. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Enton, is here. So, this effort to end birthright citizenship.
Yes.
How do Americans feel about it?
Yeah, okay. So a lot of scholars, legal scholars, will say this is a fringy idea. And I think the American public agrees it is a fringy idea. Take a look here, ending birthright citizenship. And keep in mind, this polling specifically asked about for children born to immigrants illegally here. Look at this. Just 41% support, 56% oppose. You rarely get 56% of the country to agree on anything. But on this one, they do agree that ending birthright citizenship, even for children who are here to parents who were born or who are here illegally, they oppose that idea. And keep in mind, I've looked at every single poll on the subject, different question wording. In every single one, the majority oppose. Oftentimes, the opposition number is actually higher than this 56. If anything, this is the low level, at least at this point in time.
Okay, again, to be clear, this is a majority against the president's position on this.
Correct.
How has this changed over time?
Okay, so I want you to take a look right here, right? This is this 41% who support that idea currently. Only about 4 in 10 Americans. Take a look here. This was a stat that I think surprised Mr. Berman. He was surprised by this one. Look, he's shaking his head off on the side. Support ending birthright citizenship. We get 41% now. Look where it was in 2010 during the Tea Party craze, right? 47%. How about in the early 90s? It was a majority who supported it. The number has been going down, down, down on this particular subject, which I think is quite surprising to a lot of folks because there's obviously the anti-immigration fervor in this country seems higher. But on this particular question, support ending birthright citizenship, in fact, we're near record lows on this number, at least over the last 30 years.
To be clear, support for deportation is rising.
Correct.
So this is running in the exact opposite direction of what you might think. Support for ending birthright citizenship is actually going down.
It's exactly right. And when this was one of those things, I kept looking at the polling data. You know, sometimes you get one piece of polling data, then you look at another, and you average it. It's just very clear. It just used to be considerably higher than that 41% right now, which again is at the higher level of the polling that we've actually been looking at.
In a million years, this is never what I would have predicted on this, which is why it's so important to see what the polls are telling us here. How about this issue in terms of being a motivator to get to the polls?
Yeah, okay. So it's not just that only about 4 in 10 Americans support President Trump's position on this. You might also say, okay, but what if it motivates Republicans to go out and vote? Again, this to me was so surprising. Makes you very motivated to vote. Ending birthright citizenship. Just 31% of Republicans. This issue actually motivates Democrats more. 51% say it makes them very motivated to vote. This is just from top to bottom a political loser for Donald Trump and Republicans. They may like his stance on immigration overall, but on this particular question of ending birthright citizenship, even the children who are here from parents who are here illegally, it is a political loser. The majority oppose it, and Democrats become quite motivated to vote, considerably more so than Republicans.
Again, so interesting given that the White House thinks it is winning the political battle right now in issues involving deportations about Abrego Garcia and others. This I know is a separate issue, but again, this is a political battle they're not winning.
This is exactly right. This is a political battle they're not winning. Democrats are winning this political battle, and if I were advising the Donald Trump White House, I'd say stick to other issues on immigration, not this one, because this one, as I said, is a political loser.
Harry Enton, an education. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In our Law and Justice lead, more on that move by the U.S. Supreme Court, which agreed to hear oral arguments next month, May, on whether the Trump administration can take steps to try to enforce its executive order to end what's called birthright citizenship. While the legal fight over the plan continues, the U.S. Supreme Court will consider whether lower court judges had the authority to put that executive order on hold across the entire country. So let's talk about this with CNN's chief legal affairs correspondent Paula Reed and CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig. And Paul, the Supreme Court did not agree to Trump's request that would have allowed him to start enforcing his birthright citizenship plan right now. But it does seem significant that they're hearing this argument on whether or not the lower court even has the authority to pause his executive order.
This is huge because we've seen this tension between the White House and the judiciary building, and nothing vexes President Trump more than the fact that lower court judges a single judge can block his policy for the entire country. Now, he's not the only one this happens to. All modern presidents have faced this. It frustrates all of them. But look, no one has had more policies blocked than Trump because he's issued a record number of executive orders and he plays at the edges of constitutional power. Now, the argument in favor of allowing judges to do this is that you have one policy governing the entire country, and the policies can be paused while they are vetted for whether they're constitutionally valid. And I think it's so interesting that what brings this issue to the Supreme Court is birthright citizenship, because for all the bravado the Trump legal team has about how their policies are going to be upheld by the Supreme Court, this is the one where they sort of tell me, we're not sure we're going to win. So it's interesting. It's become like a Trojan horse to get this bigger issue of the power of judges before the high court.
Yeah, and as you note, this is an issue that has that Biden had to grapple with, that Obama had to grapple with, but like you say, Trump's had to grapple with it more than others, the power of one judge to block something all over the country. Ellie, what would happen if the U.S. Supreme Court actually said district court judges don't have the ability to make this type of sweeping decision, blocking an individual law all over the country, not just there in their district?
Well, Jake, I think it's quite possible that the Supreme Court could say just that. As you've said, this is an issue that's come up over the last several presidencies, and I think there's a perfectly valid legal question there about how can a single district court judge, unelected, dictate policy for the entire country. If that were to play out here, though, we might see the downside of that, which is a lack of uniformity. Let's take birthright citizenship. How can it be the case, hypothetically, that a person born in the Western District of Pennsylvania perhaps is not a citizen, but a person born under the same circumstances in the District of New Jersey would be a citizen? And I think the ultimate solution there has to fall to Congress, where they'd have to look at laws that would expedite these types of cases, get them up to the Supreme Court as quickly as possible. And it's worth noting the House actually just passed a resolution along these lines just a couple weeks ago. It was a straight party line. Republicans were for it, Democrats were against it. But as a rule, whichever party is in the White House hates these injunctions, whichever party is on the other side tends to favor them.
The justices just agreeing to hear arguments over President Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship.
CNN's chief Supreme Court analyst Joan Biskupic is joining us now with the details. So they're going to hear this. I guess the question then will be, when will we learn what they feel about that after the hearing?
Good to see you, Erica and Boris. This is very big news. This is the first time that the Supreme Court is taking up anything related to Donald Trump's new initiative since he became president on January 20th. And on January 20th, one of his executive orders was the one lifting birthright citizenship for certain temporary residents, people who are here unlawfully, all countering what is in the 14th Amendment that says that anyone born or naturalized here in the U.S. essentially is a citizen. Now, I should tell you that immediately after Donald Trump signed that, immigration rights groups, civil libertarians, and states sued to try to block his new order. And they won in lower courts. Judges immediately blocked Donald Trump's attempt to enforce this limit on birthright citizenship. One judge even calling it blatantly unconstitutional. And as the Trump administration has come to the Supreme Court, it's not saying rule immediately on the constitutionality of what Donald Trump has done. Rather, it's saying rule on whether these judges can outright block it. So it's come up here on what the Trump administration has said is a, quote, modest request. But at the core of all this is this whole question of birthright citizenship. But the justices might instead just go narrowly on the procedural question of whether judges can so immediately block it nationwide. If they rule for the Trump administration, it would allow him to start putting into place this new plan. But if they block the Trump administration, then everything will stay the same. That the 14th Amendment, which says that anyone born or naturalized here essentially becomes a citizen, that will stay in place. As you can see, the central interest here goes to, one of American equality and identity, but we've kind of got a little bit of a chance for the justices possibly to take an off-ramp. But it's still big news that they even agreed to hear this case in any form on May 15th, scheduling rare May arguments. They normally finish their session for oral arguments at the end of April. And to go to Erica's question about when would we get an answer on this, it would likely be at the end of June or early July when they finish their this annual session. But as I say, the initial question that they will be hearing from the Trump administration is just the power of these lower court judges to block his effort to enforce this rather than the pure constitutionality of whether Donald Trump can roll back more than a century of understanding about the protections of the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship here in America.
Thanks for watching our video. If you are new to our channel and have not subscribed it, please subscribe to our channel and support us. Do not forget to press bell icon for all the new videos notifications. Share your comments in the comment box. See you in the next video.